Be a part of the best pro wrestling podcast today by supporting the Going In Raw Patreon. You can enjoy access to the live taping of the show, exclusive merchandise, and patron-only episodes, and so much more. Support Going In Raw today. Click the link in the description.
Yes!
Yes! Yes. All yawns out of the way?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You seem fine today. You seem very energetic today.
Relative.
During Time for the Win, you're...
Relative. It's all relative to me.
Good.
I'm not a high energy individual.
Yes. Hey, friendo, Steve here.
Ed Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to. Oh my God, I've got the stutters today, Larson. I wonder if it had to do with that shitty brand draft that we had to witness yesterday.
Yeah, that wasn't very good.
We're available on the iTunes, here on YouTube at our own channel at youtube.com/Steve Larson, where we have all sorts of great pro wrestling content, including like top lists, other things.
Top list.
Can we call that? We're looking for a name for the list show. Can we just call it Top List
Top
Show?
rope list.
Top rope list. Let's see here. Well, what else do we have?
Did you mention Patreon?
Podbean.
Stitcher.
We should be on iHeartRadio. I couldn't find us yesterday when I looked at our last podcast should have been the first one on iHeartRadio. I couldn't find us, but I'm sure it'll take some time to sort of get into the search engine.
Yeah,
and stuff
it's
like
not
that.
an instantaneous operation, I'm sure.
I'm sure it isn't. So, anyways, we're all on all that stuff, and we're of course on Patreon. You guys can support the cause. We have all sorts of great reward tiers, including being able to witness this live stream. Witness this podcast as it happens live. Now, nobody's watching this one live right now. This is the first one we've done in the post-brand split era.
Yeah.
And we decided to just go ahead because we don't know. We've got sort of an odd work week. We want to make sure that when we do this as a live stream, it'll be consistent week to week. And so we got to figure out what time of the day we're going to do it. And you know, it's sort of throwing more work into our schedule.
Yeah, once we get a good rhythm going, then we'll start live streaming both.
Exactly. So at that point, for $5 a month, you'll get 2 live streams a week watching this show, interacting with us. Usually we have about 30 or so people that watch, but you know, maybe adding an extra day will allow more people, you know, their schedules might be open when we're doing the second time or not. Doesn't matter. You know, we got all sorts of great reward streams anyways, or reward tiers on the Patreon at patreon.com/Stephen Larson. Let's talk about this brand draft. Going here.
Man.
First episode of Smackdown Live TV featured the WWE brand draft, where Raw, headed by Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley, was drafting against Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan.
And they wiped the floor with them.
Stephanie McMahon and
Like,
Mick Foley.
If we were Mel Kiper and Todd McShay,
Yeah.
analyzing the draft a la the NFL draft, like if the WWE draft was a real thing,
Right.
we'd be wondering why SmackDown is not going out of business.
I mean, okay.
Or pretty close to that, because
I'm
it's
gonna
not even,
I'm gonna look for the
especially after you get after first dozen picks. Once you get past that,
Yeah.
like the depth on SmackDown is not good at all.
It's not good. Okay, here's honestly my biggest complaint. My biggest complaint isn't even necessarily that SmackDown drafted horribly.
Yeah, there's a lot of logical inconsistencies in terms of how the draft as a whole was carried out.
So the biggest one involves NXT.
Yes.
Because NXT, there are 6 slots open for NXT, okay? The number 1 pick we all knew was going to be Finn Balor coming out of NXT. He was drafted number 5.
Yeah.
Okay, for Raw.
Yeah.
Past that, we had Nia Jax, a good pick.
Yeah.
Okay.
American Alpha, another good pick.
Another good pick. So those are the 3 that made sense.
Yeah.
Then in the scrub draft, after USA went off the air, or after the SmackDown went off the air, you flip over to WWE Network and you watch the scrubs get picked. You had Alexa Bliss,
Which I still think is a good pick.
Look, I love Alexa Bliss. However, she would be the perfect heel for... Who's left on NXT as a heel to challenge Asuka? Is Bayley going to go heel? That's a horrible idea.
Well, I think it's a nigh impossibility.
I mean, I get the Bayley versus Asuka thing, but Bayley has to be coming up soon.
I know.
She has to be coming up soon. Who else is on NXT in the women's division that's going to challenge Asuka? There's 2 people right now. I mean, there's Deonna Purrazzo, there's Tully Blanchard's kid. But beyond that even.
There's no one really established.
There's nobody established, and even the people who are barely established are barely there. Like there's only like 2 of them.
I know.
I mentioned this to you off camera. I'm fucking speechless. I mentioned this off camera. I would have been totally cool with this. Oh, and Mojo Rawley.
Yeah.
Mojo Rawley.
And then Eva Marie got drafted.
Yeah. Okay. Here's my problem.
Oh, and Carmella. We didn't mention Carmella.
Oh, and Carmella got drafted to the brand that Enzo and Cass aren't on.
Yeah, I know.
She could do double. She can be their valet and be a women's wrestler at the same time.
That still could happen.
I guess. Okay, here's my problem with the whole NXT thing.
Okay. I like that you want you really want rules to this because it logically doesn't make sense to you, but you gotta remove the logical from pro wrestling many times.
Okay, my suspension of disbelief has a breaking point.
I understand
with
that.
wrestling. There needs to be some logic to it. I don't need Dan Nerd Cube levels of logic.
Okay.
Because sometimes he demands a little too much logic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, Dan, it's wrestling. It can't be that logical.
It's by its nature a ridiculous enterprise.
Even in a throwaway mention, they could have said NXT General Manager William Regal got to protect X number of his roster.
And when we talked about this before we started, that could have added a story element to the Finn Balor Shinsuke contest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Balor could go to Regal and say, you know, I want to stay here, keep me on the protected list.
Yeah.
And Regal goes, no, you've done everything you need to do here. You've done everything you can do here. It's time for you to face a new challenge and go to Maine.
Right, exactly. Like the father figure
Yeah,
telling the son, go out into the world.
That adds an extra layer to to Finn's match against Shinsuke.
But Regal maybe being interested in seeing if Shinsuke can topple Joe and carry the NXT brand on his shoulders, and understanding that Joe is a monster that he needs to keep his brand alive, would say, no, these have been protected.
Yeah. Or same with Bayley and Asuka and the revival. I mean, it makes perfect sense why he'd want to protect his champions.
Exactly. It makes perfect sense why he wanted to protect his brand.
I agree with you.
But there was no, why would anybody pick Mojo Rawley over Ty Dillinger, over Shinsuke Nakamura, over Samoa Joe, over Asuka, over Bayley?
I know.
Alexa Bliss has been doing really, really good work, but she still needs time to develop as a heel in NXT. And she would have been the perfect foil for Asuka. The perfect foil.
I know. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. It's today's WWE is just not going to do that.
It would take 5 minutes.
I know. They're just not going to do it.
Mojo Rawley?
I guess that means Zack Ryder's not going to win the U.S. title.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second, because this is hurting my brain too. We have The Miz
on SmackDown
versus Darren Young, who has been drafted to Raw. They're going to fight for Miz's Intercontinental Championship.
And then Rusev's on Raw.
I wish they'd start calling him the Rusev.
And then Zack Ryder's on SmackDown.
Right. So,
are they going to trade the belts on the brands?
Rusev's on Raw. If he loses his belt to Zack Ryder, which I always thought was not going to happen, but I did think Darren Young was going to win, but then you'd have both titles on Raw.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Shit, after last night, I don't know.
Okay, let me ask you this, though. Rusev loses his U.S. title to Zack Ryder. Darren Young wins his, brings it to Raw. Does that set up Rusev versus Darren Young? That's a good feud.
Yeah.
That's a good feud. That's something that could logically make sense, because Backlund has make Darren Young great again, kind of thematically with the Trump thing, making America great again. You know, maybe. I mean, I would like to see that. Lana versus Bob Backlund in a battle of the wits type thing.
If they wanted to do that, why not just have Darren Young be wrestling Rusev now?
Yeah.
For the U.S. title.
I assume that most of these draft picks were done. Here's what we were joking about last night. Is after the draft, we were like, okay, creative comes to Vince, whoever the head of creative is, comes to Vince. Hey, Vince, we've spent weeks on this draft. We laid out we've been keeping you informed the entire time via email. And
then Vince says,
and then as soon as he says email, Vince says email.
No, remember he says, oh, I found out we have this awesome fantasy draft thing on the internet.
That's right.
And so he selected the roster using the WWE fantasy draft website, and just gave that to creative and said, we'll work with it.
Steph, how do I print this out?
And he gave those printed pages to both the GMs.
Exactly.
And that's what they use to draft.
Exactly. They're like, Vince, we spent weeks. We have storylines mapped out that'll lead to a brilliant WrestleMania.
We have balanced rosters.
We have thematic rosters that make sense. You know, we've got one specializing in wrestling. We've got one specializing in bringing in the casual fans.
You know, Cesaro's promo last night after the draft.
According to Meltzer, was a shoot.
Yeah. He mentions during that
Yes.
that he's a wrestling guy, so he wanted to be on the wrestling show. He wanted to be on SmackDown.
Yeah.
But nowhere else in any sort of official capacity was that even mentioned.
Yeah.
So did he?
And it doesn't even make sense.
Leak?
They have Cena. They have Orton. I'm not saying Orton's a bad wrestler per se, but he's not known for, like, at this point in his career, he's not known for being the wrestling guy.
No. But maybe you can understand if either brand or both brands select guys who may not necessarily fit in their unified theme, but are good to have on their brands. Like Cena and Orton will bring eyeballs to the show. You can understand that. I mean, like if they draft an entire roster.
But is
of guys who
SmackDown
can't
even
wrestle.
a wrestle-heavy roster?
No, not really.
There's nothing there to make the case for that.
Well, let's see. Who are the best workers right now? Rollins, Raw. Styles is on SmackDown.
Okay.
Sami Zayn's on Raw. Owens is on Raw.
The Miz is on SmackDown. He's not known for being a worker.
Nope.
You know?
Bray Wyatt.
American Alpha, they're workers.
Yeah.
But they're a tag team.
And they're new still. So.
Dolph Ziggler, okay, he's a worker.
Yeah, but no one really cares about Dolph Ziggler anymore.
Alberto Del Rio, not really known as a worker.
Kane, not really a worker.
No.
Kalisto's decent.
Yeah.
So not really.
There's not a strong established case.
Neither show has any sort of thematic unity beyond Raw is better than SmackDown.
And Raw has more talent.
Yeah. See, here's
Raw has more people that people want to see.
I was thinking about this last night when I got home, and in like the pits of my
I
disappointment.
was hoping you would. I was hoping, because sometimes you show up the next day and you're like, I was thinking about this.
So,
and is there some justification you came up with?
No. In fact, everything I can see in hindsight, it all seems inevitable at this point that Raw was going to get the better of this deal.
Okay.
The 3-2 setup.
Okay.
When they presented it, I was like, okay, I guess that makes kind of some sense. We'll see how it plays out.
I thought maybe, just maybe, the fact that they added an entire division, the Cruiserweight division.
I'm going to get to that in a second. But all it really did was just give Raw literally more picks of the top-level talent. What they should have done is said, all right, first 20 picks, Raw, SmackDown. And then afterwards, then fill out the rosters in whatever ratio needed. Mm-hmm. So they thought Raw would have enough talent to air a 3-hour show.
Yeah.
The Cruiserweight division. If you think about it, it makes zero sense to have that on Raw.
Yeah.
First of all, SmackDown is supposed to be the upstart show.
Mm-hmm.
They should have the more exciting talent.
Yeah.
Also, Daniel Bryan is the GM of SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
He is calling the Cruiserweight Classic.
Yeah.
It makes sense to have the Cruiserweights on SmackDown.
Yeah, I know.
Because, like, going up to it, I always thought, if anything, they'd give the advantage to the SmackDown roster just so slightly, since they're new night, going live, all that stuff.
Right, yeah.
A little bit of advantage.
Yeah,
give
totally,
a little bit of a head start. So,
Yeah.
like, before the draft started, and even more so as I thought about it, like, what I would have liked to have seen in terms of balance out the roster, on Raw, have Rollins, Ambrose, New Day, Wyatt, Sami Zayn, and Balor. Mm-hmm. On SmackDown, have AJ and the Club, Cena, Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, Orton, Enzo, and Cass. And then both shows have a pretty dominant heel and face faction / tag team. Mm-hmm. Like, why is Enzo and Cass and the New Day both on Raw?
Yeah. I know. We had said, hey, chances are they're not having these guys face off because they're going to split them in the draft. Because Enzo and Cass are they're basically the same type of thing.
Yeah, and then if they're going to split the tag titles, it makes sense to have the New Day carry the ones they have and then give Enzo and Cass the new ones on SmackDown.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. They split up AJ and the Club.
Well, I mean, then Carl Anderson tweeted something about how they were going to be on both shows or something like that.
Yeah, but I think he meant, like, they said this in an interview, that he said, AJ's going to represent the club over there. We're going to run the club. We're going to run things over here on Raw. So I think that's probably more what he meant.
It's still not a good idea.
And it'd be, God, there's so many stories you can tell with Finn being the former leader of the Bullet Club, being best friends with those two guys. and AJ being over there. Like there's some, and maybe they have stories in mind that they're going to tell. That's the only hope I have with
and maybe
this.
maybe the club will do that. Maybe they'll be on both shows. And maybe they'll have. Eventually, they'll have Finn be the leader of the Raw club and AJ be the leader of the SmackDown club. Or maybe AJ will bring in some new members. I don't know how it's going to work.
It's possible. Like, the only thing I could think is the SmackDown talent was drafted because they're people that maybe Vince, Triple H, Stephanie, whoever, thought could run with the ball, even though they haven't been given the chance or haven't been placed in that spot, and that's why it's considered weaker. Maybe they think, hey, these are guys that can perform. Maybe Dolph can perform in more of a talent vacuum. I don't know. Maybe it's a way of them. Maybe SmackDown is like grab the brass ring club. You know what I mean? I don't know.
But then if you look at the rosters, there's a lot of established talent there. You got Ambrose, Styles, Cena, Orton,
Bray Wyatt. Yeah, I know.
The Miz.
God, they've been around fucking forever.
Ziggler, Natalya, Del Rio.
I know.
The Usos,
You're right.
Kane.
I know. That doesn't make sense. I know.
Like I said, there's no thematic unity to the rosters whatsoever.
Why would anybody draft Mojo Rawley over Shinsuke Nakamura?
How long is it going to take for you to get over that?
Until William Regal shows up on NXT in his little weird square.
He's not going to address it.
Thing on Facebook. Just on Facebook. Facebook Live.
He's not going to address it, man.
Pixely, low res.
It's not going to be addressed.
I was allowed to keep.
It's not going to be addressed.
I was allowed to protect some of my wrestlers. I talked to Triple H.
Well, you need to start a movement to get this happening. Because
unless a movement for a lot of this
unless
shit.
there's popular demand for some explanation, it's not going to happen. Let me ask you this. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to move on, but go ahead.
Biggest surprise of the night.
Oh, goodness. Biggest surprise of the night. We're going to do, incidentally, a top 10 list this weekend.
Yeah.
Best and worst picks.
Correct.
Biggest surprise?
Were you surprised that the Wyatts, I guess, kind of broke up, even though it just meant Strowman's going to Raw. But if anybody was going to leave the Wyatt family, it was going to be Strowman.
Oh, is Strowman going to Raw? Was that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then Rowan and Wyatt were drafted to SmackDown.
I suppose it depends on where Luke Harper ends up.
I suspect he'll end up on SmackDown.
I don't like it. That don't make sense. I don't want. What has Strowman shown us that demonstrates he has? Look, Cass is huge. He has mic skills. Mm-hmm. You know, he's got tons of personality. Mm-hmm. He's quick.
Yeah.
Strowman.
He's just big.
Big brute.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I'm a little surprised they broke up the club, but we'll see how that plays out. There's possibilities there to make it interesting.
That was, yeah.
I just don't have a whole lot of faith.
We'll fucking see.
I just don't have a whole lot of faith.
Me neither.
Do it correctly.
Nor do I.
I don't know. All right, what disappointed you most, other than Shinsuke not being drafted?
It's a big morass of disappointment.
Where to begin?
Dude, there is no. I mean, here's the thing. Okay, so we're doing this on Wednesday because we're like, hey, people are gonna really want to know, our thoughts about it, and we've got good results. Why are we doing it? Like, it's like, I was even thinking in my head, I was like, maybe we should just wait till, do the podcast on Thursdays so we can capture NXT.
Yeah.
Same as we've been doing.
Yeah.
Because who's going to want to watch this? But I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to give it a chance and see how it plays out. Maybe they have the stronger writing team. Maybe there's some sort of backstage, and we would have heard this by now by Meltzer or Apter or somebody.
Yeah.
That there's like, you know what, they drafted this way because some of the stronger writers are going to be heading to SmackDown, and really maybe that's where they're trying to make the big improvements is behind the scenes, because they know that pretty much everybody on the roster has talent. It's a matter of how you utilize it. Mm-hmm. We've seen Dolph Ziggler huge and over, and personally, like, we haven't had faith in him because he hasn't been booked well.
Oh yeah,
in forever.
Well, and also, I mean, granted, who knows if this is his doing or creative or a combination thereof. He just hasn't shown anything new, both in terms of in-ring work and character.
Yeah.
And so again, I don't know who's to blame for that, but
yeah. So I mean, maybe I'm gonna give it time and let it see how it plays out, because the bottom line is SmackDown's not going to be the Raw recap show anymore.
Yeah.
At least we can hope for that.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be the Raw recap show anymore. We'll see what they can do. Look, it's still a more talented roster than what TNA has.
Yeah.
It's still a more polished roster than Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
So these are all guys who know what they're doing. They're performers who know what they're doing. It's surprising that they did all this. It's surprising they didn't break up Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Although there is that part of me that's like, okay, cool. We'll still have them.
Yeah,
we'll still have Jericho, Cesaro, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn all in the same show.
Yeah, I know. No, I know. That's cool, but have been nice to see some of that talent spread out.
I know.
We got new commentary teams, Steve.
I was worried for a split second last night because I was like, where's Jerry Lawler going to go? And I was also kind of bummed out because I'm hoping, although it doesn't sound like Corey Graves is going to Raw, which I love. Big promotion. Does this mean the end of him and Tom Phillips on NXT together?
I know.
That would really bum me out.
Hey, look, they're brilliant together.
They do. Look, he's on pre-shows.
Yeah.
So maybe not. They do. I think they do a lot of NXT stuff from a studio.
Yeah, I think so.
So maybe they can still do NXT. I really hope so because I love their dynamic.
They're doing either main event or superstars together.
They are. That's right. And that'll be a lot of fun. But I think you know I'm right. I think they get more freedom on the NXT. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Because they go at each other. It's hilarious. They have great chemistry. Corey Graves is hilarious. We're not going to get to see him dog Elias Sampson if he leaves NXT, and I hope he doesn't.
Well, maybe when the Drifter makes his way to the main roster.
So we have Michael Cole, Byron Saxton. I like Byron Saxton.
Yeah,
I like Byron Saxton and Corey Graves all together. So I guess I'm thinking that Corey Graves is going to be the one telling Byron Saxton that he wishes he wasn't around. Like he always caps on somebody. Byron Saxton's kind of the nerdy guy. I want to see some of that chemistry. Michael Cole, hopefully. He just sticks to anchoring things.
Yeah, I know.
He maybe learns a move or two. He learns what some of them. He doesn't call what did he call? He called like something a pedigree. He called something.
Oh yeah, I know. He messes up moves all the time.
He messes them up all the time. And then on SmackDown we have Mauro Ranallo, JBL, which should be an interesting combination, and David Otunga, which I didn't see any of his commentating when he did it when Lawler was suspended. And then Lawler and Booker T, or Lawler's moving over with Booker T to pre-shows.
Yeah.
So that's good. I like they're keeping him around. I didn't really pay too close attention to SmackDown because I usually had it on in the background and I could just hear a lot of Ronaldo yelling. But there were times that I liked in SmackDown when he would ask Lawler to look back on his own career.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that before,
insight.
Yeah.
I read something that said, him and Lawler were awkward together, and that might be for people who have eagle ears, if you want. Or sharper ears, but I always like that he did that, and I hope he does the same with JBL. Mm-hmm. And I hope it's not just JBL talking when he shouldn't be talking.
Yeah,
because he does too much of that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I've always liked David Otunga.
Yeah,
so hopefully he's good.
Do you want to talk about the two matches that mattered on SmackDown?
I do, because I like that, it was first episode of Live SmackDown TV, and we did have two matches that actually mattered, that we were actually, wow, interesting.
Especially leading up to the Battleground pay-per-view this weekend.
Xavier Woods versus Bray Wyatt. This was a return to, because we sort of thought on Raw when the New Day showed up to fight that huge 12-man match against the Wyatts, the Club, Cena, and Enzo and Cass, that they sort of, they'd had that, what could have been a life-altering Wyatt compound match.
Yeah.
Ooh, what do we do now? This is crazy. Like, we barely made it through.
Yeah.
And they kind of just fobbed it off. They kind of whatever.
Yeah.
Xavier Woods took on Bray Wyatt, and they put him once again in the role of the guy who's just really freaked out by Bray Wyatt. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved the storytelling in the ring. Xavier Woods, he's been around a lot longer than I think a lot of people realize.
Yes.
This dude can tell a story in the ring. He's a good wrestler.
Yes.
And him and Bray have something really, really interesting going on right now. Now Bray's on Raw, and Xavier Woods and New Day are on, opposite, are on Raw. Bray's on SmackDown. And so I'm not sure how much more of this we're going to see. Maybe it'll be interesting to see, because I've heard that Battleground, or I read that Battleground, the WWE sort of treating it as just a step towards SummerSlam.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we're going to see, and this might lead to the second World Heavyweight Championship and hopefully a second Women's Championship, because otherwise, why are the Divas, God, still saying Divas, why are Becky Lynch and Natalya still fighting for shit on SmackDown? And Alexa Bliss now, what are they fighting for if there's not a title?
Yeah.
So give the women their own belt on SmackDown. And maybe after Battleground, there will still be a competition between the brands where they're still leading up to an inter-brand thing at SummerSlam. And then at that point, all the belts will be settled.
Yeah.
The feuds will be settled.
Yeah.
And at that point, they can truly be separate entities.
Yeah. One could hope.
I hope so, because I mean, look, we asked for a 6-month thing with the New Day and the Wyatts. Looks like we're gonna get what, like a 2-month thing or a 3-month thing.
Yeah.
But it was a really good match, psychology wise.
Yeah.
Bray dominated
For the most part. Yeah.
Xavier tried to overcome his demons or whatever, his fears.
His fears.
A couple times he sacked up a little bit, but every time Bray shot him down.
Yeah.
Good win for Bray.
Yes.
And good storytelling and interesting.
And Xavier Woods is growing a bit of stubble. He's got a beard coming.
That's a Wyatt family trademark right there.
That's some foreshadowing.
That could be. Could maybe the New Day be a 2-man group? Maybe trying to pull him back? Maybe Bray's going to establish a new Wyatt family?
What if Xavier succumbs to his fears, joins the Wyatt family at Battleground, and then leading up to SummerSlam, there's the thing where the Wyatts and the New Day battle cross brands,
sort of invade the brands. I know,
to get Xavier back.
That would be exciting, because they've done a good job establishing it's us versus them. It's red versus blue.
Yeah,
that could be really interesting. I really would like to see that. And in the main event, we had Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose, and I went into this thinking Rollins could win. I don't know.
They kind of set up that way too, because Rollins took the lead pretty early on.
Yeah, and Stephanie said, I'm drafting Seth number 1, understanding that by the end of the night, he's going to be the champion.
Yeah.
He didn't get it done, and in fact, Dean was booked strong.
Yeah,
man.
and he won clean.
He won clean, and I love... Has Rollins got a clean win over Ambrose in the past 6 months? Well, he's only been back for 2.
I don't recall.
I don't know either.
Because most of their...
he got the clean win over Roman.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I don't remember the finish to their Hell in the Cell match, but the ladder match, they did a thing where they pulled it off the hook at the same time, and then they landed kind of simultaneously. When they landed, Rollins took the belt. So Rollins won that match, but it wasn't, like, decisive. Right.
They booked these guys pretty evenly.
Yeah.
Now, leading up to this, they booked Dean like crap.
The Hell in the Cell match, that's one where Wyatt came out, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
To interfere.
But Dean's been booked very, very strong as champion.
Yeah.
I would suspect if Battleground is just one more step towards SummerSlam, that everything's going to stand pat.
Yeah.
Dean's going to hold the belt. I think that belt's going to be staying at SmackDown, and then maybe at SummerSlam they'll establish somehow the separate belts, or post SummerSlam. I don't know.
Part of me really hopes that they keep the world title just one world title.
Do you think they can possibly do that though, with separate brands?
I mean, if they're trying to use Dean as champion as one of the draws for SmackDown, bringing in a second title on Raw is going to kind of undercut that a bit.
I know. But then if Raw ever does get that title, then your big show, so to speak, your major show is going to be without a title.
But if they really want to hype up the competition between shows, I guess that's what's
we're grasping at straws as to how they're going to even this shit out.
I don't know.
I mean, hey, you know what though? We don't know,
and we're talking about it.
And we're talking about it. So they're doing something right, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're interested. I want to see SmackDown be an A-level show.
You want to answer some questions?
Yes.
All right, Jefferson.
Yes.
Jefferson. How fucked is the women's NXT division after Bayley and Asuka runs its course? Do they retire the belt when they move up?
Seems to be the only option right now.
Well, they could develop new talent.
Yeah, here's what I thought would be cool what they do with the men's division is if Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura did get called up, which would make sense. They do a tournament and somebody like Ty Dillinger gets the belt and see what he can do with it.
There's a lot of storyline potential and character building opportunities that can be achieved through having a tournament.
Imagine Ty Dillinger versus Bobby Roode. If they really book Bobby Roode strong during the tournament and Ty Dillinger is kind of the guy who squeaks by, that'd be great.
And then at the very end,
the perfect 10 comes through.
And he is once again the perfect 10.
Exactly.
Justin Wern. If you were to give Roman Reigns a new character/image to make him more face or heel, what would it be? Lose the vest. I don't mind the cargo pants. I don't mind the boots. I don't like the vest.
Yeah, here's what I would like. Here's what I would do. This is what I would do. I don't like the cargo pants because it reminds me of butt sweat. Because in that like cotton that he's wearing, it'd be like butt sweat. Here's what I would do with Roman Reigns. when he comes out to the ring to deliver a promo, he's got like Batista used to wear. Not to that degree of like really trying to be a heel with like the hipster stuff he had on.
Yeah.
But he'd have like on, I don't know, jeans and a black shirt and a leather jacket or some crap like that, right? So because that's kind of cool. It's like he's not wearing cargo pants. Who wears cargo pants? So anyways, you do that. You just wear him normal clothes when he's a heel. Have him wear sunglasses. That's always a heel thing.
Have him come out in Dockers and penny loafers.
Yeah, exactly. Flip-flops.
Yeah.
And socks.
Yeah, there you go. Flip-flops, socks, and Dockers.
No, have him come out like Batista used to in like cool gear. And then when he wrestles, black trunks. That's it. Black trunks. I mean, with, boots and everything, but just black trunks.
Okay.
That's all he needs.
Okay.
I can't stand. He looks weak. He just looks weak with all that gear on.
It's the vest.
How is it fair to get a chop from the Big Show if you're wearing a freaking Kevlar vest?
I know. Remember there was a whole to-do about D'Lo Brown
Yes!
wearing a chest protector.
Yes!
That was a whole deal. And now there's a guy in WWE who wears that as part of his normal ring gear, and it's not a problem.
It's just fine.
Christopher Sotelo. Mm-hmm. Why do you think...
I don't know!
I didn't ask the question yet. Why do you think Shinsuke was not drafted? Because they want to keep him in NXT because he's going to win the belt from Joe. He's the next face of NXT. That's why.
I agree. That's why. I need story. Why did none of these general managers draft him? You think they don't know who he is? You think like the gimmick is they don't watch NXT?
Maybe none of them watch NXT.
They all saw this like a bunch of names. Oh, American Alpha. It says Alpha. They should be the best. So we're gonna do them. Mojo
that
Raleigh.
Guy sounds like he's got
what
energy.
A crazy name. Or maybe Zack Ryder shows him backstage.
That could
hey,
be the thing.
Draft my hype, bro.
And same with Carmella and Enzo and Cass.
Yeah, Carmella. I like Rolos.
Bagel champion Emil.
That's dope.
With Miz on SmackDown, Young on Raw, and Rusev on Raw, Ryder on SmackDown. Does it change your predictions for Battleground? And there's
we talked about this a little bit earlier with the Rusev thing. It does. I mean, they're going to keep the U.S. title.
We have two other questions that kind of here. I'm going to give a shout out to Nathish and Ulysses. They kind of ask questions in the same vein. If Darren Young was to win the IC belt at Battleground, then SmackDown would only have.
We'll put it this way. If Battleground is indeed a stepping stone to SummerSlam, it's entirely possible that neither of these titles are going to change hands.
Yeah.
In which case they're going to move on to SummerSlam, and at that point, it wouldn't surprise me maybe if the titles swapped somehow.
Yeah.
Rusev,
I have a hard time believing Rusev's going to lose that belt anytime soon.
Rusev is, I know, me too, but Rusev is interesting in that the U.S. title to him means probably around the same as the IC title to him. You know what I mean? He with the U.S. belt elevates the U.S. belt.
Yeah.
But he could swap that out for the IC title and make that IC title.
What's really the point of the swapping out two mid-card belts? There's no point to it.
Somehow getting one of the belts off of keeping a belt on Rusev and getting a belt onto Darren Young. Zack Ryder needed a belt. Miz definitely doesn't need that belt. Darren Young could you definitely use a belt.
Yeah.
Making him the U.S. champion makes sense, and giving the IC title to Rusev.
But again, if that were the case, then just have the U.S. title program be Rusev and Darren Young.
Maybe the priority was drafting one guy to one brand, one guy to another brand, and then, hey, we'll figure out the belts on top of that. I'm thinking maybe the draft came first, and then getting the belts over came second. That's the only thing I can think.
I don't know, because they seem to consider storyline in some of the draft picks. I don't know. Brian Peckinpah. If you could get drunk
Great name.
If you can get drunk with any wrestler, who would it be?
Wow.
That's a really good question.
Probably Ric Flair. I think he's too old to cause too much trouble these days. Definitely not like the...
But you just want to hear stories, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd say Stone Cold has good taste in beer.
Yeah.
So it'd be fun to have a beer
or
two with Stone Cold. He'd have good stories too.
Yeah. I wonder if he could probably like really drink us both under the table.
Oh yeah.
So by the time he's buzzed, like we'd probably be completely hammered. I remember shit about it.
Another Brian Peckinpah question. Do you think Becky Lynch will ever be champ, and how?
My only hope is that SmackDown establishes its own women's championship, and she is a shoo-in to carry that belt on the blue brand, and they could make that brand. That could be real competition there if they have two women's divisions, and because Natalya is a hell of a wrestler, Becky Lynch is a hell of a wrestler.
Naomi's really good.
Yes.
Eli M. Hey, Stephen Larson.
Hi.
Eli M. had a realization about the title situations on Raw and SmackDown. Most likely the tag belts are going to float between brands, and so will the women's title, though it may never be defended against someone on SmackDown. WWE will either A, float the WWE title, or B, create a new title for the brand that doesn't have the WWE title, I think he means.
Yeah.
Branding. SmackDown will exclusively have the IC title, and Raw will have the US and Cruiserweight titles. That leaves SmackDown without a third-tier title. My question is, will SmackDown either create a third-tier title, or they bring a title back from retirement? And if they bring back a title from retirement, what should it be? Eli's only idea is the European title.
Okay, so basically he's saying that the main belt, the secondary belt, and then the cruiserweight belt he's thinking of as the third tier title. My thing is this: Raw has a third hour, and they have that cruiserweight division. I don't think of that as a third tier title. It's a parallel title. So whoever's like king of the cruiserweights isn't going to be competing. That's not a stepping stone to go up.
Yeah.
That's just that. It's like I'm going to say X Division title, because X Division title kind of is like a secondary title. But for a while, I liked that they didn't really treat it as such. Like Samoa Joe, that was what he was going after.
Yeah.
So I think the cruiserweight title is going to be the competition title that only the cruiserweights compete in. So I don't think it would be necessary. I think each brand should probably have a heavyweight title, and because if somebody likes all the talent on SmackDown, or they prefer the SmackDown storytelling, they need to have their own world title. It's like I prefer one floating world title, but when you think about it, if you want both these brands to be separate, you kind of need.
Yeah, I know. I know. DJCS. Heath Slater wasn't drafted. What does that mean for the one-man band? Maybe he's starting his own promotion with just him in it.
I liked how they showed like him in the old school draft room.
Oh, was he in the green room?
He was in the remember back in the day they had all the seats for all the so he was just there, the last guy, and then they turned the lights out, and he's like,
that's funny.
Yeah.
What does it mean for him though?
This is going to be the same thing they did with what's his face, Curtis Axel, when he never lost at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, he can show up at both shows now.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be a little storyline for him, and that's good.
Will, now that he has gone undrafted. Oh, another Heath Slater question. But also, Will says, more importantly, why didn't they draft Bayley? Same reason Shinsuke was not drafted.
Yeah.
So she could.
So Asuka has something to do.
I know.
I'd take 6 months of Bayley versus Asuka.
In
NXT.
Okay. Adam Galloper drafts 6 stars from Lucha Underground to Raw and SmackDown. So let's do 3 each. 3 go to Raw, 3 go to SmackDown. Well, I guess
I'll be completely honest, man.
It would kind of depend on what weight division. It's like Prince
I
Puma
think I might know 6. Yeah, Prince Puma, Mil Mascaras. What? What?
You mean Mil Mortis?
Mil Mortis, yeah. Sorry.
You want
one of the Mills?
Johnny Mundo?
Meek Mill.
You want John Morrison back in WWE?
Yes.
Okay. Pentagon Jr.
Yes.
It's 4.
Who's the girl?
Oh, Ivelisse.
There you go.
She's really good. She's really good. And then
Matt Stryker, because he's a hell of a commentary guy.
Yeah, Matt Stryker is awesome. Zachariah Muhammad, following from Nairobi, Kenya.
What's up?
Do you think the 2 GMs have actual influence on what happens, or are they just puppets?
I would assume they're simple. Okay, I'll put it this way. I would assume they're just performers.
Yeah.
However, given what happened last night, it wouldn't surprise me if they actually were literally drafting at that time that night.
It seemed like some of the wrestlers didn't know when they were being drafted.
I know. Alexa Bliss gave an interview, and she was totally out of character. She was not a heel. She was a very emotional, happy girl for being drafted. So I didn't know it was going to happen.
That's crazy.
And I'm pretty sure she didn't know that was going to happen.
That's crazy.
Like, you got to stick to character, man. Sasha Banks did it when she fought Bayley that first time at TakeOver.
Yeah. Justin Wern. With the Wyatt family broken up, if Bray were to rebuild the family, who should be in it?
Xavier Woods.
Yeah.
Xavier Woods. He's not really broken. Okay, so he's got Luke. He's got Eric
Rowan still,
for sure. Luke Harper is still undrafted.
Yeah. He just lost Braun Strowman, which honestly isn't that huge of a loss.
Yeah. You know what'd be great? God, dude, you know what'd be great if Xavier Woods did join the Wyatt family and was there for 2 years. Was there for a really long time. And helped them win.
Yeah.
That would be great.
That'd be pretty crazy.
Think they're going to do it?
No.
Nope.
Kaufman.
Son.
Which current WWE superstars do you think would be great behind the commentary table?
Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens.
He's great behind the commentary table now.
I mean, he's amazing.
Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, Dean Ambrose is good.
John Cena.
John Cena's good. John Cena, God, he'd be annoying. He'd be so boring.
I know.
He'd be so fucking boring.
He'd be the face version of JBL.
Exactly.
Zach Duggar. Do you think that Finn Balor will lead the cruiserweight division? I think they have
No, they have huge plans for
different
him.
plans for him, yeah. Mr. Statist X. Do you have any insight in The Undertaker missing the draft?
Well, I read on, I don't know, WrestleZone or whatever. It was like, he's like Triple H. He's a special events guy. But then they drafted Brock Lesnar,
Yeah.
and he's a special events guy.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I don't know about Undertaker. I don't know. I mean, Undertaker's, I guess, these days a once-a-year guy.
But doesn't, there's rumors circulating that he and Vince had some issues, right?
Yeah.
Because of how...
But apparently Vince asked him to
job to Shane, right?
To job to Shane originally. Yeah, Undertaker. I'm going to look this because I thought I saw some Undertaker stuff. This is great. Undertaker looks mammoth wearing regular golf gear. FoxSports.com. That's just him.
That's his just ring attire.
Oh,
He just looks like a guy.
he just looks like the Undertaker. God, anything or clickbait these days.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because he goes where he wants to go. He's going to show up at WrestleMania, which is going to be an interbrand show anyways. Yeah. So,
the Undertaker transcends brand.
Exactly. He'll go where he wants. He'll go wherever they think it'll fit best.
We have a video question from Richie Watson.
All right, let's watch it, Richie.
Hey, what's up, Kate and Hammond? First thing off, I made a community on the PS4, Stephen Larson's Frienderville. Join if you want to. It's up to you. Anyway, my question is, apparently The Miz is a movie star, an A-lister, and he makes the movie The Marine 5. That's a movie. Anyway, what superstars would you like to see in a movie together? To me, it had to be Edge and Chris Jericho in a buddy cop movie. I guess you can throw Christian in there, where Edge goes, Christian goes, so
Thanks, Richie. For $20 a month Patreon, you can get your mug on this here podcast. For me, it's easy. I pitched this as a comic book to Boom Studios, who never got back to me because they've got the WWE license now.
That's true.
Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in a road trip movie, and the idea would be this is what I'm telling you. This is what WWE Studios should be doing. They should be taking their superstars, if you will, and putting them in character in their own sort of movies. Yeah. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn writes itself. It's a road trip movie about two guys who legit hate each other.
But they're forced to drive together from show to show.
But they used to be best friends.
Yeah.
And during the road trip, they realize what they're missing in their lives. But they, in the very end, it's somber because they can't get over the fact that they have to hate each other because of their profession and their status now in the WWE.
It's a good story.
That's a great story.
I was thinking they should do something like Face Off, starring Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose.
That's amazing. That's a great movie right there. That'd be fantastic. You got my face. Dean, you got my face. Dean,
give me back my face.
Give me back my face, Dean.
Give me back my face, Dean.
That'd be fantastic. That'd be
Well, they'd
great.
be good action stars, too.
Yeah, I know. Get John Woo back to direct that. Seth off. That'd be great. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, well, that's all our questions. You guys want to send us questions, you can.
Yeah, Twitter's been kind of weird lately.
Twitter's been a little weird.
Go back to a day or two in our notifications.
That might be just us not figuring out how to do stuff right. So if you guys want to send us a question, go ahead and tweet it at us at Real Going in Raw.
Hashtag FQ.
Hashtag FQ, which of course means friendo question.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. We're not doing we're still figuring out the second podcast. We need a Kayfabe Corner-esque segment at the end, but I want to keep that to weekly. I don't want to do that every.
Yes, I mean, there's only so many ways we can go about that before we run out of ideas.
Exactly. So if you guys have any suggestions for it to put here in the last segment, by all means, let us know.
Maybe we take part of the Kayfabe Corner idea.
Okay.
How about this?
Oh, no.
Just throwing this out here.
On camera? You're throwing out an
Yeah,
idea?
we can get feedback in the comments.
Okie doke.
I know for a while we've been doing trivia questions in Kayfabe Corner.
Sure.
Get rid of those. Secondary thing is each week we have to ask the other person 5 trivia questions.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. Let me think about that one. I feel like there's going to be a lot of really low scores.
Okay.
I'm not good at trivia.
Or if you make a multiple choice.
So how about this? Each week we print up a test.
You have to get Scantrons, you get a number 2 pencil and you fill it out.
Exactly, yeah, that's good. And
There you
then
go.
we'll get a Scantron machine, and at the end we'll go, bzzz, and we'll have a little cam right on the score
And
thing.
we'll hold it up right to camera so the audience knows the score before the other person does.
Exactly. I don't know. We'll figure something out, though. Anyways, that's it for now. For Going In Raw, I want to say thanks, everybody, for hitting the subscribe button, the download button, for ranking us, for rating us, for leaving reviews on the audio portion of stuff.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, enjoy the other content we got on YouTube, youtube.com/Stephen Larson, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.